Well, I think we are just almost at our magical start times. I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Okay.
We're transitioning this week from our Come Back Better series to now building your reopening toolkit. So the idea that it's happening. We have several of our customers who are already back, who are on Instagram posting current before and afters and current experiences in their medical spa. So we know that they're back, which means many of us are going to be in the phased rollout coming back either Friday, next week, or week after. So it's a whole different mindset now. We're no longer at home just hanging out. Getting ready now. It's go time. So we're going to focus on the toolkit for the next 2 weeks, which hopefully will give you lots of new information. So we're going to start this first day of our series with a lot of internal messaging, thinking through how you talk about your business now that you're coming back, whether it's to your external customer who you're trying to recruit and keep in your medical spa, or to your employees who are coming on board from maybe a long furlough who need to be re-energized and recharged to really be the face of your brand. So an action-packed hour. We've got a very special guest with us today, Jonathan Montoya, who is with us from a long history of aesthetics, I think 12 years to be exact.
Yeah.
You don't look like it though. Your grays are covered, so that's good.
Yeah,
So
well, there's advantages.
Good.
There's advantages to this industry, yeah.
Yeah, we have no wrinkles and no grays.
Exactly.
But he joins us today with really a triumvirate of experiences, both as a rep, as an APC for Allergan, also running a big surgery practice, and then now on the consulting side. So really seeing our industry from all the angles, which I think gives you a much different perspective than just being the provider or just being the rep or just being the owner. So a lot of fun things happening today. I'm going to let him kick us off and get started and talk about himself and what we're going to do today. And let's go forward and prosper. So Jonathan, it's all you. You can share your screen.
I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
Get this going. And I'm going to move this over and get going.
Zoom, so fun.
I know.
There we go.
There we go. So you gave me a quick introduction. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I've been, just to expand on that just a little bit more, multitude of different positions within the industry. I've run a practice. So for those of you that are on this, that are running practices or in management positions, I sympathize with you because you have a big task ahead of you as far as bringing your staff back on and actually getting them to buy into some things that are going to probably be changing. And in fact, if they're not changing, I would be concerned about that. So you're going to need to get their buy-in. So I sympathize with that and having to get an entire staff moving in the same direction. Obviously now I run my own business. I'm a digital marketing company with consulting, but before that I was basically a consultant with Allergan. Most of you know the APCs. We did a bunch of different things within practices: financial analysis, operational analysis, staff training, a bunch of marketing stuff, which is where my sweet spot is. But I have a lot of experience in this industry and from a lot of different perspectives. So I'm hopefully going to give you a different perspective on what you should be doing moving forward, coming out of this situation that we're in. So what are my goals for the day, or what are the topics we're going to be talking about? The boxes down at the bottom are essentially the topics we're going to be talking about. As you can see, it's heavy around internal marketing, which I think is a very, very, very important thing. And we're going to talk about that. But I want you to understand how to start developing an internal marketing plan, because existing customers are, without question, in my humble opinion, the biggest overlooked bucket of any medical aesthetic practice. They are the thing that's taking for advantage, or they're soon to be just coming back in all the time. I don't think that assumption can be made moving forward. So I definitely want you to start building an internal marketing plan in place, have that in place. I want you to leave this webinar with some actionable tactics, meaning you should be able to leave this webinar, stop what you're doing, get a pen and a piece of paper, and actually start executing on some of the things that we're talking about today. And then after this, you should have a better understanding of what's your most important asset, a basic productivity measure, which you should be using to make decisions about your internal marketing plan, and then managing this internal database. More importantly. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about. But first and foremost is just talking to the staff once they come back, because once they come back, and then think you and I talked about this, Tiffany, there's going to be a lot of anxiety. There's going to be a lot of angst because, like you said, let's be honest, a lot of these people got fired, right? Not too long ago. And now you're going to bring them back, and there's going to be a lot of unknown in these situations. So I think that initial meeting that you have, and for some of you, you've already had it, which is amazing. Congratulations to you. If you haven't had that, let's get that on the books, because you're definitely going to need to have a big meeting about what this is going to look like moving forward. And I'd like to give you just a small framework in which to have that potential meeting. Any questions or anything before we go on, Tiffany, or you feel good? Good? All right.
Great. And
so
if you guys have questions, you know, at the bottom of your screen, depending on how you look at Zoom, you have a Q&A box and a chat box. Chat us or ask questions, and we'll get those, we'll shout those out for Jonathan to answer.
Yes, absolutely. Please don't hesitate to chat in, and then I'll do my best to answer them. If I know it, I'll tell you. If I don't know it, I'll tell you that. And if I can't answer it, I'll tell you that as well. Communication to the staff. So this is something I always kind of, you know, something massive happened within the practice, or anytime I was in a leadership position in corporate America, I always kind of use this wow, now, how method. And so essentially it looks like this. Wow, what just happened? Okay, because something big just happened. What are we doing now? What currently are we doing now? And more importantly, what are we going to do as we move forward? Because that is really where you're going to have the ability as a leader, as an administrator, as an owner, to drive down a lot of the anxiety that's going to happen. Now, my job here is to give you one component of that little internal marketing component, and hopefully you'll be able to take that and run with it. But really, this is where you're going to be able to set the expectations, and that's a key word, the expectations of what new operational procedures are going to look like what new patient communications are going to look like, what new things you're going to be responsible for. Because like most of you've probably been assessing your business at this point in time, rightfully so, and you've probably got some good ideas coming out of this of how you can be better. And now is the time to make sure everybody is on the same page about what that looks like and how that's going to look moving forward. So when we're talking about existing patients, we're talking about internal marketing. So I want you at the end of this to be able to communicate the importance of these patients. Now, you think you know they're important, but I'm going to show you how really important they are to a practice like this. I want you to communicate their importance in managing these patients effectively. So the staff that you've employed will have a massive impact as to how well you're able to manage the internal databases that you have. They need to understand why that's important, why their ability to do this is going to be able to keep the lights on in some cases and drive revenue moving forward in a more effective way. Explain the strategies and tactics your practice will use to strengthen your existing patient database. So they should understand when you say we're going to run a retention report on lapsed Botox patients. They should all understand what that means. There should be no question about what that means to them and to the practice. You're going to ask for their ideas. All these people on the front lines, there's going to be some things that you have not thought of, and it's important to get their buy-in and their feedback before this all goes into effect during this meeting, because while you've laid out a very important plan and a very effective plan, I'm sure getting their buy-in and getting them to kind of chime in on what they think is going to be effective and not effective is really going to drive this home. And I would be very transparent about what services are going to get preferential treatment on the schedule, meaning because time is always a consistent, what's the word I want? Throttle. Yeah.
It's a constraint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Constraint. That's exactly the word I was using for. I was trying to go back to my MBA days. So it's a constraint. Absolutely. So, but now it's going to be even more constrained because you're probably not going to let as many people on the schedule because you're trying to manage the flow of patients in the practice because you don't want people stumbling all over each other. So you really, really need to understand which services you're going to prioritize. And that means which services you're going to use to talk to your patients about more effectively in internal marketing. And this can be used for external marketing too, but you really need to understand that with that constraint of time. Be very, very, very specific about what actions are going to be tracked. So whether that's, employee X at the end of every month, they're running a lapsed Botox patient report. That is your responsibility. Those things need to be spelled out very clearly, written down, and those types of things need to be held accountable for, because you're going to need everybody's assistance, especially in a small office, to do this effectively. And again, my goal leaving here is that you don't have to spend any more money to do this. This is just footwork. This is just hustle. This is just the things that you should be doing anyway in a small business. And lastly, last two things were start developing KPIs and start developing a lexicon. Meaning, again, when somebody says retention rate, or when somebody says multi-line, or when someone says internal marketing, all of that information comes with a context, because, again, it's something you all do every single month or every single week. Whenever you have these meetings, you talk about these different things. And the KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators, are just the measurements you use to track this type of thing internally, which everybody should be doing anyway. So that's what I want you to leave here with. And we'll go over this at the end of the deck to make sure that we've hit on all these as we work through this.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please. Kidding me?
So you guys, anybody who knows me knows that KPIs are like my drug. I love them.
Yes.
So as we built the business insights reporting in AR, we really focused on KPIs. So if you're an aesthetic record user, you know you have options to do employee tracking, whether it's retail sales, package sales, average order value. You can look at their booking percentages. All that's easily tracked. You can almost do like an employee dashboard if you want to with AR. But I think the other part of that is, you mentioned be very specific. If you are a coach, you're someone who is coaching employees, and Victoria and I talk about this quite a bit. If they don't know the expectation, you cannot coach against it. It's like a basketball game. If we don't know the end goal is winning, we can't coach to winning. So I think you have to just be very specific thing. I think about PPE. We're saying now you have to always have it on in the clinic, period. That's not a sometimes if you want to. It has to be done. So now I can coach against the fact that it's a mandate. You don't get a choice. So right. I think anytime you leave things open for interpretation, you lose the ability to coach or discipline against that particular piece. So be thinking about that. And then the other part that you mentioned, thinking about like the preferential scheduling, again, Victoria and I managing a group of people, they often have different ideas and thoughts about the customers. We're looking at it from a financial perspective. And in this exact instance, is if someone does a combination therapy, they want Botox, they want Juvederm, etc. They should get preference on the schedule because they are a higher revenue, i.e. higher profitability number than someone that's just getting Botox. So if you only have X amount of hours in your day as the scheduler, be thinking about how you maximize the profitability potential of every single minute. Don't think about high churn, like just get them in, get them out, get them in. Think about how you get them in for that hour that they're going to have to now take up with all the cleaning and maximize it. So I think this internal scheduling piece and explaining to employees, I know that they want to get it done so badly. I get it. But unfortunately, financially, it doesn't make sense right now. We have to think about this group first. So right. That's going to be a lot of buy-in language for you as a practice owner or the practice manager to explain to your staff that the desire and the need doesn't equate to the revenue or profitability. Those are very different tracks. So anyway, I'll come off the soapbox, but we have Heather Ripon coming on Wednesday of next week to talk a lot about the combination therapy, scheduling, and profitability. So tune in Wednesday of next week for more about like selling information too. So I won't steal her thunder. Carry on.
No, absolutely. I thought it was great. Absolutely. I love it. Love it. Love the feedback. So if you remember, the first bucket was communicating this information to your staff. Well, now we're going to get into, okay, now let's talk about what actually we need to be focusing on and kind of dovetailing into what Tiffany was talking about. It's making good decisions about what's our most profitable procedure per chunk of time and how can we make the most money and how can we utilize the assets that we have, in this case, our rooms, our time, more effectively to generate the most amount of revenue. Now, conversion rates, again, having been a consultant for years, conversion rates are one of those things that everybody talks about, but nobody really understands, okay? If you ask a plastic surgeon or if you ask any provider what their conversion rate is, they'll inevitably overestimate it. They'll just say it's like 90 or 100%. I've never seen a 90% conversion rate on any surgical procedure. Those are more reserved for like Botox and those types of things. I mean, people come in for consults with Botox and generally they go on and perform the actual procedure. But conversion rates are very, very important. I want to explain that by using a very simple math equation. And once you understand this math equation, you can utilize it in a multitude of different ways within your practice to make objective decisions. That's the key thing here, is to make objective decisions, not decisions based on what you feel or how you think it works. These are objective decisions based on data. So what is the simple math equation? The simple math equation is A times B equals C, where A is the number of consults, B is your conversion rate, and C is your goal. So let's say that we have a goal of we want to see 10 cool sculpting patients in 1 week. So I'm going to preface this as being 1 week. Well, if you actually know what your conversion rate is, actual numbers, meaning you've put pen to paper, you've looked at all the consults you've done on Cool Sculpting, you've actually seen the ones that move on, and again, you can actually put pen to paper and figure that out, well, then that becomes a very, very simple math equations for the office and for planning out marketing. Okay, specifically operations and those types of things. So if you know you want 10 a week and you have a 50% conversion rate, well, then somebody, somehow, some way has got to get 20 consults in that door. Okay, that's simply all that means. Then the machine kicks over and you can forecast out with relatively high confidence the fact that you're going to be able to put 10 people on that Cool Sculpting machine every single week, as long as your conversion rate stays where it is or possibly goes up, that would be better. And as long as you're putting 20 consults in. So based on that information, we can make some objective decisions like, does the schedule even allow for 20 consults? Okay. Do we even have 20 consults on the books? I do this all the time. And I know some of you out there aren't plastic surgeons, but plastic surgeons, this comes to life very quickly. They want this type of ratio with whatever, right? Tummy tucks, breast dogs, those type of things, but it could be anything. And I'll notice real quick, they only have 12 available consult slots for the week. Well, there's no way you're going to be able to hit that number with the conversion rate being what it is. So now we have to make operational decisions about scheduling, right? This gives us very good insight if we simply know this math equation as to how we're going to deploy our schedule more effectively. So conversion rate is one of those things that you have to know. So at the end of this, you need to figure out on your consults, which ones you do consults for, what your conversion rate is for each one of those, because it's going to come into play here in just a second as far as educating you and helping you make objective decisions. I see you come off mute. Tiffany, you want to say something?
I did. It's like when I come off mute, I'm like,
Get it.
We are actually preparing. So we'll launch tomorrow, like a full COVID comeback, low touch, no touch kit. But I think what you're saying here, if I'm looking at this as a practice owner, we know now that if a patient walks into a room, we have to disinfect and clean and text them to come in. Like there's probably a 20-minute window buffer of work to be done on a consult. If the consult does not convert, you've wasted an hour for nothing. Or even if they do convert, but they can't get it done today because i.e. Cool Sculpting, the machine's already being used, go virtual. You can do a virtual consult with absolutely no touch, no cleaning, no nothing at all within, if you're AR user, already in your system. Which is HIPAA compliant, by the way. If you're using Facebook or whatever else, be cautious. If you're using FaceTime, not Facebook. But my point being, if we want to see 12 a week and we have to do 20 to get that done, go virtual. Don't waste the money, the time, or the employee time to do something for free that can be done online in 15 minutes. It requires nothing except for just hitting the button and going. So if you're not using a virtual consult now, I urge you and encourage you for your business health to employ that tactic, because you cannot fit them in and be profitable otherwise. The numbers do not make sense. I promise you, I've run them, and so has Victoria. You can't do it. So go virtual for your consults. Absolutely. Unless you know they're going to convert in that day and you can actually take them while they're there. So yes.
And I would even go further and say, even if you think they would, I mean, it may be even better just to do it anyway and get it out of the way. Just so you're just, and again, we'll talk about that in just a second. But even with this information, you can do other things. And I know we're short on time, but you can look at your inquiry to consult. So how many inquiries do I need to get 20 consults, right? And if you know that for every inquiry that comes on, 80% of those eventually make it on the book, well, then you need to talk to your marketing person about getting you 25 inquiries every week. So once you know that specific number, you can do some backwards arithmetic and really figure out and really get scientific with this thing, but you have to know it. You have to know it. So that's a very important thing. So now that we know that, now we're going to talk about productivity versus time. And that's the big thing. That's the big constraint that everybody's talking about. So new versus existing Botox. Okay, this is always a very interesting discussion to have with injectors or providers of any type. If you look at existing and new Botox, they're both generating the exact same amount of profit to the practice. That's not debatable at this point in time. So I have just an example here of $500 in revenue, backing out half the cost for the Botox cost, and it leaves you $250 profit. But when you account for time, you see very quickly why your existing database is your most important patient, bar none, out of this entire group, and why you should be taking care of it right now. Because if you account for time, really, what is a Botox appointment count? And for those of you that are scheduling an hour for Botox, stop it. Okay, that's not necessary. Botox should be like 10 or 15 minutes tops if it's existing Botox patient, okay? You
Except
don't
for
need a
now, because you
consult.
got to clean everything and you got to do all the mess. So you may have to add a 10-minute buffer there to scrub down the
Yeah,
room.
obviously you want to count for all that stuff we have to do now. But, you know, even before COVID, when I would do operational assessments and practices, they would be an hour book for Botox. And I'd be like, what are we doing here? You're inefficient at this point in time, right? But we don't need consult time. There is no conversion rate. They're there. So you really need 15 minutes to do that. And if you did it over 4 times every hour, you make $1,000 an hour for the practice. Now contrast that with a new patient. Maybe you book additional 15 minutes because you have to do the consult. So you're booking a 30. You probably have a 90% conversion rate on that type of thing. You may get them to come back one other time for a follow-up. You know, all that time has to be accounted for when you're talking about the profit that new patient generated. And again, love new Botox patients. They become existing Botox patients. But as you're scheduling and looking for areas to improve your schedule, you need to understand the fact that new patients are going to require a lot more time, and they're going to deliver less revenue per chunk of time, that being an hour. I always like using an hour. And then you can even do that with other things like facials. And again, you don't get me started on facials and medical practices, or, you know, I can just go on all day on a soapbox on that. But you can do this with every single procedure that you have if you know the conversion rate. And what you'll find out very quickly is that your existing patients are going to deliver the most bang for your buck. So they are very important at this point in time. And let's be honest, if you can't convince these individuals to come back into your practice right now, there is very little likelihood that you're going to convince some newer people to come in that don't know you, that don't love you, that don't know you're great. You need to be focusing a lot of efforts on these existing patients, i.e. internal medicine. Or excuse me, internal marketing, not internal medicine. Excuse me. All right. So how do we do internal marketing? There's a couple of concepts I want you to become very familiar with as you work through this and as you're starting to think about building out your internal marketing platform. One is GIGO, which means garbage in, garbage out. And one of the main learnings that we always had as consultants when we were doing the financial benchmark with Allergan is that we would want to do this information or want to give this report, but we would try to get the data out of a practice management system and it just went in terribly. So you could do nothing with it on the back end. And it was sad because there were years and years and years of this and you could do nothing with that information. I'm sure there's ways that you're not going to allow them to do that where they are, right? You're not going to allow them to have this garbage in, garbage out. So some of the big things that I saw was all revenue going under one provider. So you would have 5 providers, but they were all going under Dr. Smith because nobody wanted to pay for the additional license, right? Nobody wanted to pay for that. Well, how much is an additional license with you guys, Tiffany?
It's $12 and it's called HIPAA. You do this under HIPAA, they will come for you. You have to have every unique provider identified in your system. So if you whatever EMR you use, if you're cheating your system, you are not in compliance and it's not worth it for $12 a month. Get it together.
Yes. Well, it's not worth it for any,
I sound like
but
Botox
but
jocks,
$12 especially
Exactly.
for $12 a month. That's very good. So another one is generic appointment types. Like for example, all Botox or all toxin patients and all filler patients and all Kybella patients, they all go under these cosmetic services. Does not help us do anything with this data. You need unique appointment types that are specific to the services you are delivering. That's another one. And generic service or product categories. Again, you don't have injectables, don't have retail product. They need to be specific. That way, when we run the data on the back end, we can actually use the information. Those are just 3 of the things that I typically saw when we're pulling information out of practice management systems that were just a headache and you need to stop doing immediately. Segmentation is the other component that I want you to understand. You should be able to develop your own internal list and talk to them based on the behavior that they've shown you in the past. So what do I mean by that? You ever notice how you're shopping on Amazon and Amazon says, hey, you might also be interested in X. So if I'm shopping for tools, they're showing me things that are related to that genre. They're not showing me things like in bed linens or something like that. You can do the exact same thing that they do with your own internal marketing, right? You can look at the information that they've provided you. For example, someone does Botox and they haven't done fillers yet. That's a easy way to talk to them. That's an easy way to do that. And you can actually segment that out and create unique offers if you know what you're doing and you can get it out of your practice management system. So very, very important. Let's talk about if you can't get it out of your practice management system, where else can we go? And I know there's other ones out there. I know Galderma has Aspire and there's some other ones out there, I'm sure, but being from Allergan for years, I'm just no brilliant distinction. The ones you can run immediately to start working on your internal database marketing is a 30, 60 point expiring lists. So that for my accounts, those get run every month. Every month those get run and we send emails out every month on those. That's easy. I've done a whole YouTube video on how to find it, what to do with it. So go check out my YouTube video if you want information on that. The second one is last transaction date by product or treatment. So if you're utilizing Brilliant Distinctions like you should, or any other one, Aspire, whatever, you should be able to run a list and see who came in last by which product treatment. So if you've got a Botox patient that hasn't been in 6 months, a toxin patient that hasn't been in 6 months, that's a lapsed patient. They are off their schedule. And so you need to be able to talk to them and get them back in as soon as possible. Patients that haven't been in the last 365 days, that essentially means you lost them. If we're talking about non-surgical procedures. So they went somewhere else at this point in time. And so you need a reactivation campaign to get them back into your practice now. And I would be willing to give a lot to get that patient back in, or at least to find out what happened, right? To find out what happened, because maybe there's an internal process that we aren't aware of. Maybe they had a bad result, something like that. All right. Where is it? Why is this not working?
Oh, you have to click a few times.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, with Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So target lists that you can come up with. There's just on those 3 reports right there. There are 7 different lists that you can come up with. 7 that you can start working immediately just based on Brilliant Distinctions. And those should all have a unique offer dropped into a specific email client and talking to them individually. Now, you're not blasting out $50 off for everybody. You're not talking to the person that has no interest in Botox about Botox. You're actually segmenting the data and utilizing your internal marketing database effectively at that point in time. And that's just with 3 reports and Brilliant Distinctions. Okay, so there's 7 there that you can use.
So I'm jumping in because I can't help myself.
Come on.
So if you are an AR user, I'm on the wagon again. If you're in your Business Insights tab, there are 17 unique reports, which actually if you look at the times that you can use them, are unlimited reports that basically do all this for you. They've had Botox and not Juvederm. They've had Kybella and not Sculpture. They've not come back in top 20%. All those reports are in there for you. And because you report things by the product level in AR, you can separate all that stuff out. And then you just hit share if you're on the accelerator plan, and send that unique list, to your point, Jonathan, to MailChimp or Constant Contact. So I can create a unique campaign for only the people who on that list have had Dysport and not Wrestle and Lift. And I can uniquely identify and discuss that information with just that list. So if you're not on the accelerator plan and you want to do things like this for $4 more a month, basically, you can do all of this and get some very targeted, specific communications with non-garbage, with good information in and good information out. So
yeah.
Get on it.
Yeah, so you can do this information here.
Exactly, you can do everything. You can look at you can do a birthday promo for April birthdays and send that to MailChimp and send out just an April coupon or whatever you want to do. It's all in there for you. So if you're not currently mining your data in the Business Insights, send us a chat, email us, call us, whatever. We'll show you how to look at all that as a report and start taking actionable steps to recruit those patients back into the practice. Yeah, very easy.
I mean, and that's good. This is what this industry's been lacking. And again, I have no affiliation other than just you guys are putting out good content. I want to be part of that. I haven't seen these reports yet, but if AR can do this, it's saving you literally hours of work, because to try to figure all this out. And again, when I do this for my practices, I pull it and get it to Excel file. I'm dropping it in pivot tables and trying to figure it all out. And again, I'm good at it. And it takes me a little bit. So I can imagine someone that didn't know any of this stuff and how it would affect them. It probably frustrate them very quickly. So if you're not on that for $4 a month, that's a steal. So practice management system, these are the things you can run out of your practice management system, right? And you can tailor this, right, to what your specialty is, right? If you feel, and again, based on the data that you've run, based on which procedures you feel like are going to drive the most revenue, you can specialize and tailor these reports based on what you feel is going to drive the most bang for your buck. And I think if you can do that with a click of a button in AR, that's a very, very, very useful feature. So yes, practice management systems are very, very important for database mining. But to date, at least in my experience, they've been very difficult to get out of. And AR's figured that out. Good for you guys. So once you have that, and Tiffany alluded to this a second ago, you need to upload these to your email client. Okay. What does that mean? So for most of you use MailChimp or Constant Contact. Constant Contact was a big one when I was out in the field doing this a lot. You need to go in there and create it's called a list. And so you need to call it something very unique, like lapsed Botox patients, and put the date on it. So once you put it in there, you can select that specific list, however many people are in there, whether that's 50 or 100, or maybe it's 5, maybe you're great, but that specific list, and you can run a specific message to them with a specific offer in that list. You're not blasting it out to everybody. That's the way you should be using your email. Very segmented and automated, and that way it's personalized to the individual based on the behavior they've shown you in the past. So that is very, very, I mean, and again, if they can just click a button and send it there, that's awesome. But you all need to start using the segmented components of MailChimp and Constant Contact and ActiveCampaign and Emma or whatever else you're using. Those are very, very, very powerful features within these email marketing platforms. So that's the basics of it. You should be doing this. You should be sending emails. You can create coupons, track them in your practice management system, and track for effectiveness. That's how you do this. If you want to be super advanced, you can create email automations. And again, very easy to do. I've got a YouTube on it on my YouTube channel, how to do this in Constant Contact. But let's say that you're trying to take a Botox patient to a filler patient, right? Well, you could send them one email, but you could also send them a automated email response, not response, but series showing them the different things about filler, like what are the side effects, or maybe the 3 most common objections. You can make videos about that and feed it to them one video every week. And that is going to help them decide or maybe come over the edge about getting filler. And you can set this all up automatically once you film 3 videos, set it up, send it out. And that can be an email campaign that's set up, segmented, and automated. By then, you are cooking with grease, and you are doing better than 99% of practices out there. Now, if you want to be stellar, these are some of the things that you may have to hire somebody like me for, but creating custom audiences. Most people don't even know that you can upload lists into Facebook and then run ads to those email lists specifically. So nobody else would see the ads except for the people in that list. So if you've got 1,000 Botox patients, you upload it as a custom audience in Facebook, you can run ads at that audience and only those people will see it. Nobody else will see it. So again, very, very, very high level I shouldn't say high level, but again, most people don't know you can do that. But again, it's a very, very effective tactic to use if you're trying to, again, segment this out and manage an internal database. Any questions or comments before I move on?
No, I think this last one here, this a specific URL.
Yeah.
If you are adventurous, you can look at Unbounce, which is a great option to build custom landing pages. I'm able to do it, and I'm like inept at all things design. But Unbounce would allow you to, in essence, create a custom audience. Let's say it's in a Facebook ad. They click through to get your offer, and they come to a unique landing page that's just about that ad or that audience. So again, if they're already in your practice and it's like a welcome home kind of campaign or a welcome back campaign, that's a much different verbiage than, hey, person who I don't know, I've never met, never been in here, I want you to come to my practice. You're trying to win them over versus you're inviting them back home. Those are very different talk tracks. So an Unbounce page kind of allows you to put a nice shell on your website where they don't see your actual everyday site. They see this custom, really beautiful landing page. So again, it's called Unbounce. Other groups do it. We use ActiveCampaign for AR. We can build them in ActiveCampaign as well, but it's a nice way to pull that Facebook message through to like a full, like holistic, unique plan. So
yeah, Unbounce is great. No, I completely agree. Unbounce is great. Lead Pages is another good one out there. A lot of people have them, but again, I think Unbounce and Lead Pages are probably by far the best and easiest, I think. All right, let me get this.
We've got a question that just came through,
okay.
And I've got some thoughts too, but about, we've tried custom audiences in Facebook, but the conversion seemed even lower than email marketing. Any thoughts?
What type of custom audience? There's several different custom audiences you can run. So are they talking about an email campaign? Like you uploaded an email list?
I'm not entirely sure. Let's see if they've, just the patient list. So was it a specific, so I think that to your point, it's whatever the custom audience list is, it has to speak to the ad. So if it's a Botox ad, you need to look at your Botox custom audience, do a lookalike campaign if you want to, or I think you still segment even beyond your patient list to even more granular. I could be totally wrong. I'm looking at Facebook. And also you can A/B test, right? If the messaging doesn't work, tweak it, change it, and see if you get more adoption as you go. We just had this ourselves with the campaign we did, and we were getting crazy people that were clicking that had nothing to do with what we wanted, and we had to change our verbiage like every single day to get it right. So
yeah, so
Facebook's a battle.
No, I think if somebody's asking about custom audiences, to me, the thing that you need to understand, and I'm a Facebook ad certified buyer, so I kind of know what I'm talking about here. So you need to create multiple forms of content, meaning the ad creative. So you need to make sure that you're running, I would say at least 5. And that's different pictures or videos and the copy that you're writing at the top. And you need to split test all of those with the tools that you have available in Facebook and see which ones are getting the best response. And then you're cutting, if ad 5 sucks, you cut that off immediately and deploy the rest of the money to the 4. And once you find out the 2 sucks, you cut that off and you run it to the rest of the 3. So that way you're actually utilizing the AI available in Facebook to get the results you want. To run one piece of creative, one particular custom audience is really not the effective way to do that. So we're getting into a little bit off topic, but I mean, I can come back on and talk all about Facebook ads if you want.
Well, I think to tie it back to one of your very first slides around profitability of an existing patient, this is where this plays in. So if your cost per click is extremely high because you've not done a great job with your audience, that cuts into your profitability. So if you think about, my litmus test for is this working or not, is that cost per click has to be pretty low, and of that I'm getting good conversion. So it's it's a twofold. So if you're paying a lot and not getting great conversion, for those who come in, if only 7 convert, you paid $1,000, you're now taking 1,000 divided by 7, that's the cost per conversion. And that makes it a much different profitability number than if you've got low cost per conversion and you have a high amount of folks actually coming in and booking with you. So you've got a few different metrics to think about with Facebook.
And those metrics are the ones you really need to think about. Like the vanity metrics are worthless. Shares, likes, those type of things, those are worthless. You need to be looking at the CPC, CPM, ROAS. Those are the things you need to be looking at on Facebook to make sure that you're running those effectively. So very good advice. All right, come on, Zoom, work with me. All right, so we are back at our original goals. Okay. Communication, you say existing patients are vital. Okay. Hopefully we've made that abundantly clear, not only because they already know you and love you. You don't really have to spend that much more money to get them. If any, you may run a retargeting campaign for a couple bucks a day at them. And that's, again, super advanced. You can do all the other things that we talked about that don't cost any money, just doing the footwork. Okay. That's all this takes is footwork. And again, if you have a great practice management system like AR, apparently you can just push a button and it's even better. It's even better. But you need to be able to communicate the importance of these patients to your staff. Okay. They need to understand that, yes, we all put out the bells and whistles when a new person shows up and we're like, pomp and circumstance, but that needs to happen for existing patients, okay? Because these are going to be the people that are going to be paying the bills, at least in the near term, probably more than anybody else. And again, communicating their importance of these patients is very, 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 very important. Explain the strategies and tactics. So what do I mean by that? If you're not an AR customer, and you say, listen, Betty, I need you to run lapsed Botox patients this month. They need to understand why they're doing that. Right? They need to understand that these patients are low-hanging fruit, and all we got to do is just send them an email probably to get them back in. And that time that you're spending doing that is very, 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 very valuable to us as a practice, right? They need to understand that. You just don't need to tell them that they're doing this. You need to understand that. Ask for their ideas and input. Obviously, as you're going to do this, the first iteration of this is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the way this is done forever and ever and ever again. The first iteration is probably going to be the worst. That's just the way it is. But at least you're doing it and you're getting the feedback from the people at the front office and from the managers or whomever is doing this about which way is going to work best.
But I think I'm jumping in again real quick.
Go ahead.
Just because I work a lot on the industry side too. I think as we
Yeah.
come back, we've got BD, to your point, BD, Aspire. I think Palladium has some things happening. Your skincare companies, your laser companies, they're all going to be building for you these amazing campaigns with discounts already involved that you're not
Yes.
having to personally bear. I think while those are great and they're the easy button, they still require work on your end. If Galderma says we're going to do a Dysport filler combo, you have to still go in and mine your data, find patients who fit that bill, and then still target them to come in and take advantage of the coupon. Because if you don't do it, all your competitors are doing it, and now you're fighting for the same group of productive patients. So even if you get these amazing promos from Galderma, don't just reshare on Instagram. That's not effective because we're all resharing it.
Yes.
Build something unique that is built into, that you can then have like a different look and feel than the guy next door who has the exact same promo with the exact same Aspire coupon that you have. So you have to make it feel different.
Yes, without question. Again, it's customized. It's like you're talking like, hey, I've got this for you. You're important to me. So I've made this for you. I walked you through how to do it. Go to this URL, click this link. This is what it is. So again, you're making less, you're making it slippery is what we call it, making it easy, less friction, right? So going back to the list here, be transparent about the services that you're going to give preferred scheduling. Again, because the time constraint is even more in play now than it usually is. Some people are not going to understand, like, okay, we're going to allow 3 facials in our practice this week, and everything else that we've talked about goes before that, right? They need to understand that, because if they don't understand the why, they're going to think, well, I can just throw it on. And again, having been an administrator, and if you don't explain the why and hold them accountable, it's like you never said it for some odd reason. It's like it just goes away. Be very specific about what actions are going to be tracked. So again, if somebody's job in the practice is to run that report or to mine that specific data for that particular list, you need to hold them accountable and first teach them, right? And then make sure they know how to do it, and then hold them accountable. That is how this is going to work, especially in small offices when you're probably going to have to divide and conquer if you don't have a cool practice management system like AR. And then start developing your KPIs and your internal lexicon. That way, when you say these things, everybody knows what you're talking about. You don't have to explain it again. Like, this is why it's important. This is why we're doing this, because these are the most valuable patients to our practice at this point in time. And hopefully through all this, you've made objective decisions because you know some productivity measures, and you can start building out this internal database marketing plan with the practice that you have. They'll all be on board because they understand how important it is. So
I think too, if you're someone who's paying commission to your estheticians, to your point, and you're only doing 3 facials a week, remember that they've just come off furlough where they've made no money. Now they're back, and you're like, by the way, you're back, but you can only make a little bit of money because you're just not as productive as our master injectors who are doing a butt Sculptra, which is 10 vials at $800 each. I think you have to rethink how you're paying them. Give them these jobs, right? Keep them employed by doing things like running their reports, looking at Facebook, working your Instagram, helping to build content campaigns, blogging on your behalf. Find ways to keep them productive, or else you've not only kicked them in the teeth the first time, now they're kicked in the teeth the second time. And the other part of that is, like with retail products, we typically rely, and oftentimes, on our front desk or our estheticians to sell retail to our customers who are here for injections. Well, now we don't want them in the lobby, right? So as the injectors now, they're the ones pulling retail products. They're the ones introducing, the BHA, AHA, whatever that is. So now they're taking away the commission for retail products as well. So everything is now restructuring. So think about your pay and how you divide workload out to people do these kinds of things that we're talking about today, because they can't make commission on their traditional services. So that's where that employee communication whole thing is like paramount right now, because you want them to be upbeat and excited and thrilled about being back at work and great to your patients and a great experience. But if they're not making any money, they may not be on board. So rethink that.
Oh, completely. That's such sage advice, because, and again, if they don't understand why they're not getting that preferential treatment because you didn't sit down and go through this with them as a leader, they're going to get salty pretty quickly, because again, you just fired them. It's like, it's going to be a big mess. So you need to really think about how you're going to maximize these existing patients in your practice. come out with a game plan, and then communicate that game plan to everyone so that everybody's on the same page, because it's going to look a little different for every practice, and it's going to look specifically different from the way you did it before you shut down. So I hope that helped. I hope that at least gave you some ideas about how to construct an internal marketing plan, and more importantly, how to communicate that to your employees, because they're going to need to be on board with this thing, because that's going to be what's best for the practice.
Yeah, and I hate to jump off here. Victoria's going to be in charge of finishing us up. I've got to run to something else like right now, which I'm so sorry to leave you all. You know how much I love our webinars every day. We'll be back tomorrow with Kyle Farr, who's a DNP out of Michigan. We'll talk all about our new COVID kit, our no-touch policies, all the things we have in place for you, and Kyle will walk through in his practice what he's doing and thinking through. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Victoria, you're in charge. So happy question and answering, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.
See you, Tiffany.
Bye. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. So Victoria, is this Q&A or what do we do?
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
Yep. I think we're at the end of your slide, so it was amazing. I feel like you had a lot of really great information to share. So yeah, we'll open everything up for Q&A, and then I'm also going to share aesthetic record with everyone real quick, just so we can take a look at some of the reports.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
it'll be your first time seeing them.
Yeah, I'd love to see this. Yes, please.
Right. Alrighty, so for those that are new to aesthetic record, basically tying into the presentation from today, we're talking about how important all of these reports are. And so the impact of having a system that you can truly customize the information, you have a team of AR experts that can help you customize everything to make sure you're building it correctly. And this is something when we're onboarding, you know, whether you're a solo practitioner, whether you run a multi-location operation, it's just so important that you're putting things into the system so that you're getting the correct data. So you'll hear us talk about that a lot, whether you're doing training with us or a demo, just basically how important it is that the information you put into the system, there's a reason why you're putting it in a certain way, and it's so that you get access to solid reports. So when we take a look in here, and for those that are current clients, real quick, I'm going to backtrack, but we've got the business insights section right up here. So you just click right into that, and then you can create your reports. Now, keep in mind, everything in the system is connected. So the moment that the patient books the appointment to the moment that they, or that you transact with them in the practice, all of that goes into the report. So just keep that in mind if you are or are not using features that can sort of, limit the reports you get. But you'll notice here, so when we were talking about certain reports, patients have had Botox done in X time, for example, or patient has had Botox but no filler. Or if you're trying to target, maybe you're running, a promotion on a specific product, you have access to all of these reports. We've got the birthday month report, so that's a big one too if you want to run something for promotions in regards to a birthday. And then the other big one, so when we, towards the beginning of today's session, when we're talking about new patients and returning patients, you also have access to those particular reports. So if you're wanting to run special promotions based off of that, you can pull your report in here. And then the cool thing about this, let's see, here we go. Patient has not visited this month. So when we were talking about sending those reports over to the CRM or marketing platform that you're using, you'll notice right up here, if you're on that accelerator plan, all you have to do is it's literally one click and it sends directly over to your audiences in MailChimp, for example. And that's how you can start to then target that particular audience.
That's awesome.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it is awesome. Is
that everything you've ever dreamed of?
Yeah, I mean, from a marketer's perspective, yes.
Yep. And then, so this is obviously our demo account, but you'll capture email, first and last name, phone number. So you're getting really all that data that you need to target specific groups. It looks like, let me see, we've got a few chats. Let's see what we've got here. This was a great session. It was amazing. Well,
Okay,
thanks for
good.
joining.
No, pleasure.
I'm just reading through some of our comments from today.
Yeah. Oh, I see. What kind of content
You see
creation is
them?
best for Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
So, you want me to handle that one?
Yeah, you go for
Okay.
it.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm kind of opinionated. The best content creation is whatever works. You should be unemotional about which content is working. And if you're talking about organic content, you're in a hustle game. You need to be posting at minimum once a day, minimum. I mean, more like 2-3 times a day. And you need to be paying attention to what is actually working. So if videos are working, you need to pay attention to that. If pictures are working, what type of pictures, questions, what type of questions are working. So really it's what is your audience responding to? And it doesn't matter. So if they like drawings of pictures that your kids do, that's what you're posting, right? It doesn't matter what you think you should be posting. It matters what your audience is responding to. So that is the kind of content you should be creating. And again, it's a hustle game because you need to be posting at least 2 or 3 times a day. And with that information, you should be getting feedback as to you could tell which is the audience is responding to and which hashtags are working too. Most of people aren't using all the hashtags they have available to them. You have 30 hashtags available. Do not listen to anybody that says it looks spammy if you do this and that. No, nobody. If you're ever a person that says, well, that's one too many hashtags for me, I'm not going to look at this. That person's not around. That person doesn't exist, right? Use all 30 hashtags. And there's a thing called a stair-step method or a ladder method. You can Google it and figure it out, but it's essentially you're stratifying the different hashtags. So you break it up into 5. So you'll have 6 different stratifications and you're segmenting it by the popularity of each hashtag. Again, I could do a whole thing on this, but that's the way you should be running it. You should be posting 2 or 3 times a day, coming up with effective hashtag strategy. I like using the software called Flick to do my hashtag research and tracking the information to see which your audience is responding to. And it's a hustle game. You have to like doing it if you're doing organic content, social media content. That's why most people just aren't good at it. And if you're doing it effectively, it's a hustle game. And a lot of people just don't want to put in the hustle work. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, so maybe you can give everybody some insight on this. So when you're targeting specific hashtags, so we recently learned, I think, Botox and lips. If you were hashtagging your photos with that, they were not getting found. So when you think about that in the crazy world of Instagram and all the algorithms and everything, what's the best way for people who are just starting off to target specific hashtags?
So let me pull it
and
up.
to make sure they're actually getting found.
Yeah. So let me pull up Instagram here. So this is the, let me log out of this one. I got one of my customers up here. All right, so I'm going to type in Botox. And I'll share my screen in just a second.
Thank you.
Where'd you go? All right, share screen. All right, so when you're looking, let me move this out of the way. So when you're looking at this, let me see, let me do one called like plastic surgery. So if you did hashtag plastic surgery, right? That's a popular one. There's 3.3 million posts there. The likelihood that you're going to get your post to rank in any meaningful way when there's almost 4 million of them in that segment or in that hashtag is very, very, very low. So what I would do is I would look for something more specific, like I'm in Atlanta. Well, there's 813 there. I've got a much higher chance of ranking for that as opposed to just plastic surgery in general. Now I can start ranking here. People can start seeing me here and clicking on it. And now Instagram is going to recognize the fact that people are paying attention to that. And then again, that's where that stair step or ladder method comes into play because you've strategically selected some hashtags that are low hanging fruit, right? And you stratify them up accordingly based on the importance or based on the popularity of each hashtag. So you're just going to spend a little time in here going over the different hashtags that you find important. So for instance, again, let's go to Botox, right? Botox has got 7.2 million, right? The likelihood that you're going to, yes, it's a very lot. The likelihood that you're going to post something, it's going to show up here very, very, very minimal. Let's do Botox before and after. How about that? Now people can see us. Now we'll start showing up here in top post and in most recent posts. And you can see here, this is actually one that I posted here of one of my accounts. So it's one of those things that you can see and people can see it and start interacting with it. And again, once Instagram sees it, people are interacting with it, the algorithm, the infamous algorithm takes over and you'll start getting some more traction. But you have to do the research on the beginning, on the front end, to come up with the 30 different hashtags that you want to target, essentially.
That's awesome. I know we've got about 2 minutes left here, so we had another quick question. How do you use Instagram to target sales as well?
How you use Instagram to target sales? Yeah, so I'm gonna run ads. Essentially, we're talking about, so there's two different ways an effective social media campaign works in medical aesthetics. One is if you're doing e-commerce, right? So if you're doing e-commerce, you need to have the Facebook pixel set up so that it recognizes when things are happening, like a purchase is being made or an add to cart's being made. All that can be tracked in the business manager as long as you have the Facebook pixel set up correctly. Okay, and the Facebook pixel is very, 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 very important if you're going to be running ads. So that's one type. The second type is leads or conversions. So anytime somebody fills out a form or clicks on the click to call, there's actually a pixel can fire on that and tell you whether or not that Facebook ad or Instagram ad is actually working in the way you thought it was. So again, like most things in this space, it's test and iteration, right? So I'm going to throw out several different ads on Instagram, if Instagram's my thing, seeing which creative works, what drives people to click on different things. And I'm going to be monitoring that on the back end about which things are actually working, whether or not it's a click to call, whether someone filled out a form or not. And again, that's the way you're actually supposed to do social media marketing. Social media marketing has evolved past just posting things. It's now moved into the hustle of organic reach and then the paid advertising to you. If you're not doing paid advertising on social media, you're not really doing social media marketing in my opinion. So hopefully that helped. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we're almost at time here. So do we have any last minute questions? You can shoot it through the Q&A box. If not, we will tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. So same time, we'll have a webinar Thursday and Friday. So be sure to join us. I loved your presentation today, Jonathan. So thanks so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Very informative.
Glad to be here. Glad to be back.
Anybody
needs anything, you guys just let me know.
He knows all the tips and tricks, so wonderful. Well, it was a pleasure having you on, and we will see everyone tomorrow at the same time.
See ya.
Thanks.